So today we're going to continue to take a look at the alternative future of the world. We are now into part 10 of this series, and we're moving right along. We're going to have a couple more big events happening in this video, and they're going to be closely linked to the last two videos, so make sure you go watch them. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new. All support is greatly appreciated if you try to reach 5,000 subscribers by the end of this year. So yeah, let's get right into the scenario. So we're going to start by looking at the alliances. If you remember in the last video, we saw the collapse of Russia and the formation of this new neutral-ish purple Central Asian alliance. Well, actually, there's going to be another country joining this alliance, and it's not going to be one that any of you think. It's going to be India, or the Himalayan Union, I guess. They have a long history in this series of being completely neutral, but now they're actually going to join this new alliance. And speaking of alliances, in South Africa, we actually have these two countries leaving the African Union alliance. Neutrality is a really big thing in the world right now. A lot of countries are super neutral, but there are some countries that are very power hungry and want to expand their empires. So a lot of countries remain in alliances. We saw the collapse of Russia and the CSTO in the last two videos respectively. We saw the collapse of the US a few videos ago too. They did come back though, but they're not the same as they once were. But now we're actually going to see the collapse of one more of these great superpowers, and that is being none other than China. We now have China going to civil war, and there's going to be three factions. One rebel group is going to be down in Southeast Asia, and they're going to be mainly supported by a lot of the Southeast Asian countries, such as Vietnam, Cambodia, and Thailand. There's going to be a Central Asian one that's very pro-Indian and Mongolian, as well as a rebellion up in Manchuria, which united with China after losing the Russian Civil War. The people here are much more pro-Korean and Japanese than they are Chinese. And so we actually have these three regions declaring their independence from China, and then going ahead and declaring war on the country. As this is happening, we're actually going to look at the alliances here, and a lot of these East Asian countries that are in the WDO just left the WDO. And they did this in order to join this war against China. Because if they had joined this war and they're still in the WDO, that would have triggered the entire WDO in order to go into that war. And they don't see China as much of a threat anymore, and so they're actually going to join this war. So right away, we have red team troops landing on this island in China, and then pushing up into mainland China. And we have Taiwan and the Philippines making a landing in southeast China as well. The green team makes a push out from their borders, and they're actually very close to Beijing, so they see a little bit more resistance, and their campaign doesn't go very far. They do make a landing on this peninsula here, though, and this goes a little bit better. And eventually we see the purple team push out along the border of Mongolia, as they also want to get to Beijing and meet up with the green team. Now I should probably mention that each of these sides isn't going to be attacking each other. They're just attacking China. I just have them colored separately, that way you kind of know which region they are. Anyway, back to the fighting. The purple team also makes a campaign to push along the Indian border to meet up with the red team in the south. They do this successfully, and the red team continues to push into China. They stick along the coast, trying to meet up with the Taiwan and Philippine landing farther north, but that landing is slowly being pushed back by the Chinese military. Back up north, the green team uses their navy to bombard the coast, and this goes very well, and eventually the entire coast is taken. They continue their push, and eventually they do take over Beijing, and they continue to push through China. Eventually they meet up with the purple team on the border of Mongolia, and the purple team continues to push down along their border. Eventually red team reinforcements do meet up with the Taiwan and Philippines landing, and they take back a lot of their land. They continue to push out, and their campaign is going quite well. But now we actually have another country joining this war, and it's not going to be one that you may have expected. I hinted that this country might be supporting some of the CSTO members, and that country is of course Indonesia. On one of the last videos that they showed support for Russia and China in their civil wars, and they even joined the civil war of the CSTO, on the side of the CSTO countries, in which they actually gained a lot of land. And now they're going to be coming to the aid of China to get back at some of these Southeast Asian countries. These countries are not expecting an invasion from the south, and so Indonesia has a lot of success at first, moving into southern Thailand, and making a landing in the Philippines, southern island too, eventually taking out the entire island. These countries are forced to reorganize some of their troops, and that causes them to lose some land back up north in China. Not too much though, and they still do hold down the front lines. The Japanese and Koreans continue to move down the coast, and they also push into central China as well. Eventually China has lost all of their coasts to the red team and the green teams, and the red team is able to push back against China, regaining some of the territory that they've conquered. Elsewhere we also have the purple team pushing out from all across their border, securing a very long front line, and pushing into central China as well. This rebellion isn't quite as strong though, and they are pushed back by China, all the way to their border. Just in the central region though, they do hold some land in the north and south. And this is where we actually have China pushing over the border slightly into Purple Team territory. And the Red Team continues to lose land in Thailand from Indonesia, and Indonesia just made a landing in southern Vietnam. This landing was fully pushed back though, however, as more of the Red Team troops are down here, and a lot of these countries are conscripting a lot of people right now. Over in the Philippines though, they're not so lucky, as Indonesia continues island hopping, taking over a lot of their islands. They continue to do so until it's just their northernmost large island left, and eventually the Philippines surrenders. But now there's actually a really big event that's going to happen, and India is actually going to join this war on the side of the Purple Team. I know this is really surprising since they're supposed to be super neutral, but they want to help to end war in the world, and so they're actually going to join this war in hopes of ending the CSTO once and for all. But then something else is happening that they weren't quite expecting. Pakistan joins this war on the side of China, and so does Iran. Well, that leads to the entire Central Asian alliance to get into this war. And then we actually have Turkey, Georgia, Azerbaijan, and Armenia joining this war, as they don't like Iran. And now we have a very large-scale war. Now we went and recolored all the colors of these countries just so it's easier to see which countries are on which side. So now we just have red and blue, which is much easier to see. So we now have Turkey, Azerbaijan, Armenia, and Georgia pushing down south into Iran. And we have Pakistan pushing over into India, in the north and in the south. None of these Central Asian countries are actually really that strong, because they all just got independence from Russia. They fought a really large civil war, and the militaries are exhausted. Most of their resources are gone, so they don't really have a whole lot left. But that said, we actually have the Russian Federation joining this war, and that's really all that's left of the CSTO. We now actually have Iran pushing back against Turkey, pushing them back almost completely out of their borders in the north, and completely out in the south. From there they push into what used to be Iraq and Syria, push up north into Azerbaijan, and into Turkmenistan, taking out most of their coast. Eventually Iran fully liberates themselves, and continue to push into Azerbaijan and Armenia. Eventually Azerbaijan surrenders, and they continue to push into Georgia, just as they capitulate over Armenia. From there they push over into Turkey, and up into Georgia, where this country does eventually surrender. With that, Iran continues to push into Turkey, and it's not going so well for the Red Team anymore. But with Indian reinforcements, the Purple country is able to completely kick out the Chinese. After a few more weeks of fighting, the Chinese finally surrender. With that, some of these stronger countries are able to redirect their forces down south to fight off Indonesia and Pakistan. Just like that, India is able to push back Pakistan in the south and up north, even starting their own campaign through the Kashmir region. And Thailand is also able to push back against Indonesia. Eventually they fully liberate themselves and push across the border into what used to be Malaysia. Eventually they take out the peninsula. I don't know why Russia joined this war. They wanted to try and get back some of the land, but of all the countries, Russia is not doing the best after their civil war. And so a lot of these countries are able to push into Russia, taking out a lot of land very quickly. They push in from the north, from the south, and from all across their borders, they're pushing into Russia. They cut off this peninsula from the rest of the country, eventually taking it. And Russia decides to surrender because they don't want to fight this war. And it is actually now that both sides are going to go ahead and meet for peace. Both China and Russia were destroyed. And it's really just Iran, Pakistan, Indonesia. And they're kind of going to be destroyed if they allow this war to continue. All these countries have some land gains, and so they're going to go ahead and they're going to do a peace treaty. Okay, and so taking a look at this peace treaty, we can actually see that a lot has changed. We'll start over here in China, where we see that Japan, Manchuria, and Korea all united into one country and got a little bit of land out of China. Taiwan took a little bit of land. All the Southeast Asian countries have returned, and with a new companion. This one, of course, is that rebel group. And the Purple country also got their independence. Thailand annexed the rest of this peninsula from Indonesia, but Indonesia annexed all of the Philippines. India and Pakistan had a bit of a land swap up north. Iran annexed all of Turkmenistan, all the Caucasus countries, and a lot of eastern Turkey. Kazakhstan and this one Russian republic took some land out of Russia. And now if we look at the alliance map, I only redid it for Asia, so the WDO does still exist. But we see that almost every country has joined the Purple Alliance, and some new countries have joined the CSCO, such as Pakistan and Indonesia. The only original member is Iran. And I shouldn't even say original member, because the original members were Central Asia, Russia, and Belarus. So actually their alliance has completely changed. I just realized that. But yeah, so Russia and China have both been defeated, and a lot of Europe is actually relieved. So much that Ukraine and the Baltic country are actually going to unite, along with Romania, and they're going to form the East European Union. And we're going to see Germany unite with a lowland country, and if we look at the alliance map, see Yugoslavia leave the WDO, along with that East European Union, and Greece, Bulgaria, and even Finland and Czechoslovakia. And this Caucasus country is actually going to go ahead and join the Asian Union. So this is the Asian Defense League, pretty much. They are a peaceful alliance. They are attack one, attack all. So if you attack India, then all these other countries are going to come to attack you. But it's basically just to make a secure and peaceful Asia. And they work very closely with the WDO. But a lot of these alliances are starting to fall apart, as we can see in Europe with the WDO. And speaking of the WDO falling apart, over in Oceania, the Solomon Islands and this island chain here also leave the WDO, along with New Zealand, which is actually quite shocking to a lot of people. We actually see this island here get independence from France, and they leave the WDO. Another country leaving an alliance is actually going to be South Africa and the East African Federation. A lot of these countries just want to be very neutral, and so they're going to be leaving their alliances. Also in Africa, we're actually going to see a union between Nigeria and Algeria and Libya. These are the 3 founding members of the African Union Alliance. And we're actually going to see Egypt get in on this union as well. And so yeah, that's actually going to be it for today's video. Now just wait one moment before you click off this video, as I want to give a quick shout out to one of my subscribers, Rocket the Ronky and Melon Playground, as it's his birthday tomorrow. And sadly he's celebrating with a broken leg. So happy birthday and get well soon to you. And to everybody else, thank you for watching. Leave any comments or suggestions below. Like and subscribe, all the support is greatly appreciated. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.